explain a bit about that. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. As you can see there from that first slide, tonight we're talking about grow yourself to grow your business. For those of you who are new to these webinars, they're all recorded. So if there's anything that I go through that you're not sure of or you want to go back over or anything, at the end of tonight's webinar I'll show you where all of the recordings are, so you can go back over this one, or if you want to go and have a look at one of the other ones, then you can do that. You don't have to wait till that one comes around. So tonight is the 6th webinar in this circle of success. The first couple there, getting started in your first 4 weeks, in fact the first 3, are about the retail side, so kind of the catalogues and online selling and so on. Numbers 4 and 5 are about team building and supporting your new team members. And then this one and the next 2 are, and these could really be almost at the beginning as well, because they're not to do with catalogues specifically or team building specifically. They're all about building yourself, growing yourself in all sorts of different ways. And these are probably more important than the skills that you need to deliver catalogues, building up that kind of customer relationships and so on, and the team building skills. Because if you've got great attitude and goals, and you study personal development and get over any kind of personal worries and things like that, then you can implement the other skills in far more with far more success. Anyway, I hope that all kind of makes sense in a moment once we've been through this one. So, if you know how to put your catalogues out and how to build a customer base, and you know how to find and sponsor somebody into your team and how to support them, what else do you need to build a successful business? And that's what we're going to cover tonight, really, or we're going to make a start on it. As I said, this one and the next 2 just expand on the same area. So what we're talking a bit about tonight is just telling you or explaining to you why it's important to follow our system. You don't need to reinvent the wheel as a Kleeneze distributor. We've been doing what we do for probably 25 years now, and obviously there's been some big changes just recently on the online selling side. But again, you don't need to reinvent that wheel. There's some fantastic support online to how to do that. So if you follow that system, then you will be successful, because people always are. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some really important areas that you need to understand. So make sure that you understand lots of different bits about Kleeneze and the industry that we're in. I'm going to recommend that you get started on some personal development if you haven't already. And I've got a couple of recommendations for you to make a start on that. So, when we talk about don't reinvent the wheel, what do we mean? Well, at school, you're told by your teachers, don't copy. You're supposed to create your own schoolwork, and especially in exams, copying is cheating and really kind of bad news. However, at Kleeneze, it's the route to success. If you sit down with a Bob Webb or a John Hawkes or a Jill Nicholson or somebody who is very, very successful in the business, and you find out what they did and you do the same, then there's a very, very high chance that you'll be successful too. So what is it exactly that you should be copying? What is this system that we talk about? Well, partly you've been learning it on these webinars. We talk about things like the 6x4 catalogue routine at the beginning. We talk about following up, and we talk about what information you send to new prospects. So you've been learning a lot of the system on that. And as I said there, Kleeneze has been in its current form for 20 years, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. However, what's really important is that that doesn't mean that we're trying to kind of tell people not to be creative and not to come up with good ideas, because if nobody came up with any new ideas, then Andy Boswell's work on Facebook would never have occurred. So adding new ideas is good, but don't feel that you have to start from scratch all the time. So as I said at the beginning, find somebody who is successful and copy them. And this could well be your upline, or if they're fairly new in the business, then it might be their upline. There will always be successful people at the meetings. I was talking briefly there with Sian and Dave earlier about a meeting that some of the ladies went to up at Swindon. And there's some really successful people at these meetings. And that is a bit of a clue, the fact that successful people go to meetings. That might give you a clue as to how important those meetings are. But also, if you go there and you meet them, you will learn so much. And every successful person that I've ever met in Kleeneze is quite happy to share with you what they did, give you their kind of advice and guidance, which is one of the beauties of our business. And I mentioned a little bit about essential understanding. These are areas that you might not immediately think are important, but they will stand you in good stead. So, one of the great things about Kleeneze is it's not in an industry all on its own. Excuse me. It's in an industry called network marketing, and there are lots of network marketing businesses around the world. And the network marketing side is basically that if you become a team leader, you introduce other people to the business, and you can earn bonuses based on their orders as well as your own. And that kind of structure of a business is getting more and more successful as time goes on. But one of the best books, there's a couple of books there, actually a book and a CD that I recommend you get, and they're both very simple to take in. So the first one there, the 45-second presentation by Don Failer, is a great little book. It's 50 pages if that, big words, lots of pictures. It's kind of my kind of book, really easy to read, and it just gives you a really great introduction to network marketing and the value of introducing other people to the business. And then the other one that I've got down there, and this is actually an audio CD rather than a book, and actually it comes across so much better, I think, because it is spoken by Jim himself, Jim Rohn, who was a fantastic leader and speaker who passed away a few years ago, sadly. But this was I think the first audio CD that I ever bought from bids, the first Millionaires I went to, I think, and I just love it, and I still listen to it to this day. It's about an hour altogether, so it really doesn't take you very long to listen to it, and it really goes into gives you some great insight into why not everybody who joins your business will stay, and why not everybody who asks for information will join your business. And actually that's okay, and Jim just explains that in a fantastic way. So if you're thinking of team building at all, or even if you're not but you just want to understand a little bit about some of the background to it, then those two resources are really essential, I would say. So what else is it important to understand? Well, you should really understand a bit about the Kleeneze pay plan. Now the Kleeneze pay plan is a pretty humongous pay plan. Everyone starts off exactly the same, with no customers, no orders, and a bunch of catalogues. But hopefully, once you start to work your way through the 30-day challenge, and you get up to 10% and 13% and so on, you start to realize the different kinds of commission that you get, and the different bonuses that you can get, and then the different levels like gold and senior and bronze executive and so on. Now, you don't need to understand the nitty-gritty of every single kind of step in the pay plan. I would say it's useful to know at least a couple of steps ahead of where you are now, so that you can set yourself some goals and targets and know, what do I need to do to get to my next level. So if you've just started and you're just getting your 20% commission, 21% commission from your orders, and your upline starts to talk to you about, oh yeah, you're not far off getting your 10% bonus, then make sure you understand what that means. And if you don't, make sure you ask your sponsor, what does it mean? What will I receive if I get to 10%? And if I want to earn bigger bonuses, what do I need to do to get to 13% or 15% or whatever? So, as I say, it's always worth knowing, say, a couple of steps ahead of where you are. And the other thing, and I referred to this very briefly earlier on the Jim Rohn CD, it's really understanding that growing a really successful business in Kleeneze, it's just a numbers game. It really is. I think it was John Hawkes that said, correct me if I'm wrong, John, a blind dog with a what is it? A blind dog with a catalogue could earn money in this business, because it's really just delivering catalogues, and the more catalogues you deliver, the more customers you will find, and the more you will earn. There isn't a special skill that you can learn to deliver catalogues in a particularly kind of innovative way. It's really just, deliver as many catalogues as you can, and you will find more customers, and you will earn more money. And when it comes down to team building, the more leads you can generate, the more activity you do generating leads, so that's leaflets and maybe adverts on Facebook and wherever else you might be advertising, the more of that you do, the more responses you will get, the more team members you will get, and the bigger your income will come on that as well. So just kind of understanding those numbers will really help you when you start to think about how can I kind of earn more money or make a more successful business. And as I said, that Jim Rohn CD that I mentioned at the beginning there is a really great one. It's obviously not written for Kleeneze particularly, so it doesn't talk about catalogues, but especially on the team building side, it talks a lot about leads and prospects and team members and why they come and go and so on. So that kind of, the Jim Rohn CD there leads me very nicely into personal development. Jim Rohn was a great believer, a huge believer. In fact, a lot of his talks are all about personal development and what that is, and how you can transform your life with a little bit of education. And this was, I'm just going to kind of introduce personal development a little bit here. There was a phrase that somebody said at a training meeting I went to, which really kind of almost it kind of boils it down very nicely for me. They said, if you only do what you know you should do, you can achieve anything. And actually, if you think of Kleeneze, you know that if you put your catalogues out twice a week or whatever it is that you should do, or when you're thinking about team building, if you follow up all of your leads, if you deliver your leaflets, if you put your shop cards up, if you do what you know you should do, then you can build a huge successful business. The reason that most of us are not successful is that even though we know what we should do, we kind of find reasons for not doing it. We procrastinate. We're a bit worried about what people might say. We don't want to get wet in the rain. There's all sorts of reasons why we can find not to do it. But actually, if we just do it, then we will be hugely successful. And another little phrase that again kind of talks about this a little bit. Jim Rohn talks about working harder on yourself than you do on your job. And by working on yourself, what he means is your personal development. You should be reading and listening and watching and learning and attending meetings and trainings. And in fact, the fact that all of you guys are on the webinar tonight, I'm kind of preaching to the converted a little bit, because you're already taking part in some personal development. You can choose to do this webinar, or you can choose not to. And the fact that you are coming on it is because it's a good example of the fact that you're working on yourself. So I'm a big believer in becoming a sponge for information. The more you can read, the more you learn, the more you can change the way you do things, and the more successful you will become. So you should plug into some kind of personal development program. We talk about it. It's probably the most valuable skill set that you can learn in Kleeneze. We talk about the catalogue side and the team building side, but by doing some personal development, you will become a lot more successful in those areas. And personal development can be achieved by reading. It's what you read. You can watch things, videos and such like, and webinars such as this. You can listen. The audio that I mentioned earlier, the Jim Rohn CD, is a great example of some personal development that you listen to. And the series of webinars that I run, number 8, I talk a lot more about personal development and particular areas and examples, if you like, that can help you get started. And one of the most important things, and again we talked very briefly about this earlier with Sian when the meeting was first starting, you should try to get to as many meetings as you can. Plug into every meeting. There will be local opportunity meetings to you. There will be training meetings like the 10 steps trainings that Neil Young has opened up to the whole network now. there are kind of millionaires meetings, there's obviously the showcase meetings and so on. And every meeting that you go to, you will meet somebody new, you will learn something, you'll be mixing with successful people. And one of the things that you'll find is, even if you've been going to meetings over and over and over again, you never know when you will find your next golden nugget. And a golden nugget is simply somebody will say something, and quite often it's something that you've heard before at some previous training, and it just didn't quite click, or you sort of thought, oh yeah, that makes sense, but you know, it's not quite relevant for me at the moment. Somebody will say something in a slightly different way, and suddenly it will kind of make you think, oh my God, you know what, I've never realized that. And you start, and it changes the way you just start doing something. And so I found this a lot all the time when I go to meetings. I'm always coming out with something new that I sort of knew, but I just hadn't really been implementing properly, if you like. So the more meetings you go to, the more golden nuggets you'll discover. I've got a list here of readings and listenings that I recommend. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole lot. You can kind of have a little look through here if you want, and pick some that you might find successful. Speak to your sponsor to find out which ones they recommended. But one of the things that I'm going to quickly do is just highlight a handful of what I found are the most useful books and audio CDs for me. So it's the ones that are kind of highlighted in blue there. So they are the one that I was talking about earlier, the Jim Rohn CD, Building Your Network Marketing Business. It really is. It talks about the philosophies of network marketing. Now, philosophy sounds like a very grand word. When I first kind of came across philosophies in network marketing, I thought, I've got no idea what they're talking about. But it's really just the way you think about things, and I'll expand on this a bit more in one of the other webinars that I think number 8, the 8th webinar that I do. And I talk a lot about your philosophies. It's the way you think about things, and how things happen to you, and how you can change things. You don't have to wait for other people to change, and so on. And this CD is a great introduction to kind of philosophies on network marketing. As I said there, I think it was the first one that I got, and it's probably still one of my favorites now. And if you like Jim Rohn, this is I think one of my favorite books of his. He's got lots of books that he's written as well. And this one's called 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness. And it covers a variety of different things: goal setting, and kind of how to invest your time as well as your money, and the philosophies in Jim's life, which I think are really, really useful for us all. There's another couple of books that, but they're very similar in a way. One's called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and one's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And they both basically talk about the fact that actually your success is not based on one big decision that you make. It's based on all the little ones that you make every single day. I think he gives some examples of if you're trying to lose weight, for example. Every morning you can choose to have an apple for breakfast, or I don't know, toasted tea cake, something like that. And it's just one little decision. If you decide one day, oh no, I quite fancy a nice tea cake, so I'll have the tea cake instead of the apple, then you don't suddenly wake up the next morning overweight. And if you eat the apple, you don't suddenly lose 16 pounds in weight overnight. But if you do every day, you have an apple instead of a toasted tea cake, then gradually you will get healthier and healthier, and you will lose weight if that's what you're trying to do. And alternatively, if instead of having that apple every day, you have an extra toasted tea cake or whatever it might be. Don't know why I'm saying toasted tea cake. It's one of my vices, I guess. If you do have that every day instead of the apple, then you won't notice anything immediately, but gradually you'll see that you're just putting on a little bit of weight each time, feeling a little bit kind of less healthy. And it's exactly the same in business. You can choose every morning to go and put those extra catalogs out, or you could say, oh, maybe I'll just stay in bed a little bit longer. And that probably won't make a huge difference to your success in the next day or two. But if you do that every day, those extra few catalogs every single day will mount up to more orders, to bigger bonuses, to more impressive paychecks, so you'll get more team members joining. all because of that little discipline that you put in place every day. So that's what these two books are talking about. They're both really good. I like both authors, and I recommend either of those books. Here's another good book that I like. It's quite an old one now. Dale Carnegie. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it goes through quite a lot of different aspects of it. But basically what he's talking about is if you are nice to people and you show an interest in them and you find out a bit about them, then they're much more likely to be nice and interested in you and be interested in what you've got to say. So if you're just going into people, if you're thinking about trying to build your team, and every time you see somebody you say, oh, are you interested in earning a bit of extra money, then you're just coming across as a salesman all the time. Whereas if you're kind of just smiling and friendly and you're having a cup of tea with somebody and you kind of bump into somebody and chatting about the weather and you ask them about, what's important to them, then if you then say to them just something like, oh, actually, I'm looking to expand my business in the area, would you take a little look at this and let me know if you know anyone who might be interested, then they're much more likely to sort of invest a bit of their time looking at what you've got to offer. So that's what that book's about. It's quite a big book. It's not very big in terms of size, but there's kind of quite a lot in it. So and I really like that one. Definitely a good one to take a look at. Darren Hardy is another of my favourite authors, and he wrote a book, and this particular one is one of my favourites. It's called Design Your Best Year Ever, and it's basically like a workbook. It's not something that you just read. It's something that you decide at the beginning of a year, and it doesn't have to be January. You can say my year that I want to make a change in my life is going to be from the 1st of April till the 31st of March next year, whatever it might be, any 12 months really. And you decide what your big goals are for that year, what you want to achieve, and then it helps you to break those goals down into kind of monthly steps and weekly kind of milestones and then daily activities, so that you can then achieve these fantastic goals. And it really is a great book at helping you to do that. So if you would like to try goal setting and you're kind of struggling with it a little bit at the moment, then that's definitely a good one to do that. And then I think this is the last one on this section. This is a book that I've read fairly recently, just sort of 3-6 months ago now. It's called The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters. Steve Peters is a kind of psychologist, I think, and he was involved in the team that turned, if you're interested in cycling at all, you know that the British track cycling team have been very, very successful at Olympics recently, with kind of Bradley Wiggins and Sir Chris Hoy and people like that. But behind the scenes, a lot of them were very kind of, had a lot of kind of, not personal issues, but they were worried, they had lots of anxiety about how they would do in competition. When there was a big competition coming up, like the Olympic Games, some of them would just freeze and get so nervous and just not perform well, and then be really angry with themselves. Steve Peters helped to turn that around, and this is a great book. It just explains a little bit about how your brain works and how other people's brain works, and why you might get frustrated and angry and emotional at things, and how those sometimes unhelpful emotions can get in the way of what you're trying to achieve, and how to deal with them. So I find that a really, really useful book. Again, it's kind of nothing to do with network marketing, it's nothing to do with Kleeneze, it's all to do with you. And again, in the words of Jim Rohn, if you want things to change, then you have to change. Okay, a few questions just to see who was still awake earlier on. Can you remember what I said? This quote from Jim Rohn: work harder on yourself than you do on your, remember? Your work, yeah, your job, your business, yeah. I think he actually says work on your job, but actually what he means is exactly that: work harder on yourself than you do on your work, your business, your job. It's basically saying, your personal development can make such a huge difference to your success. So, out of those books, I saw a few people there just saying the Chimp Paradox was one they were interested in. I know Dave Trowell said he was reading that. Anybody else got any books there that they like the sound of, or any books that anybody else is reading at the moment that you'd like to share with us that you're enjoying? Oh yeah, John Church book there from Myrna, goal setting. That's really good. GoPro, hi Sean, that's an excellent book. Yeah, I really like that. That's a good one. Eric Worre there. Oh yeah, Katrina, Personality Plus. That's a good one. I'm definitely I can't remember what they are and what the names are, but I'm a kind of an engineer, analysty, melancholy. I can't remember what they're called now, but yeah, Florence Littauer. That's a great one for just kind of realizing why different people think in different ways. Wow, you guys are brilliant. There's so many good suggestions there. Law of Attraction. That's a good one. Yeah, GoPro there. Big Al, yeah, Joe, I like Big Al as well. I've just finished reading one of his How to Build Network Marketing Leaders, which is really, really interesting. So, fantastic, guys. Oh yeah, Think and Grow Rich, David. I've got to admit, I struggled with that one, but it's got such a lot of value in it that it's a great book. Okay, gosh, we could talk for hours just on that. So what did we talk about this evening? We're wrapping it up now, guys. We talked about following our system. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Please don't think you're starting Kleeneze on your own. You're not quite sure how to do it, so you have to work it all out. Just find people who are already doing it, and we all have somebody who can help us, because the person who brings you into the business has a vested interest in you being successful, so they can show you how it works best for them, or their upline. Talked a bit about some essential understanding, just understanding a bit about the network marketing industry, how the team building part of Kleeneze works and why that's really important. There's a couple of books there that I recommended. I do recommend you understand a little bit about the Kleeneze pay plan. You don't have to understand the whole lot, but at least the next 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, so you know where you're heading. And we went through a bit of recommended reading there, and it sounds like you guys are already well on the ball with that. So we're just about come to the end of this now. Next week is all about goals and attitude. We've had some brief mentions there about goal setting, so perhaps I might get Myrna or somebody to give one of these webinars. Tell us all about goal setting. So yes, that's what we do next week. And I mentioned at the beginning that these are all recorded, so I'm just going to stop the recording of this one for now while I think about it.